Hey everyone, welcome to the Multiverse Fundraiser and our John Jackson Miller interview. I am going to play a quick video about our cause and then we're going to get into it.
And this is what we do. We do this every day. On Christmas Day, I was getting emails from hospitals. On Christmas Day, I was responding. Sickness doesn't take a break. We are there for the hospitals. We are there for the kids. We will do whatever we can do. And as I look and talk to you, and I talk to all the people who are watching this, be a part of this. However you want to be a part of this, be a part of it. If you can send us $5, send us $5. Send us 5 comic books, a Funko Pop, a toy, a children's book, send it to us. However you want to make a difference, because we're all in this together. And here's the cool news. Nobody knows who I am, and here's why. When we give these materials to the hospitals give it to the kids and the parents. Comic book for kids and my name never shows up. When this stuff goes to the military, when my comic shops send the pallets, my name is never there. And that's great. That's all right. Because it's not, as I said, about us. It's not about promoting who we are. It's about all of us together in the industry making a difference for so many. And that's what we're about, Kelly. And that's what we do every single day of the year.
All right, here we go. Well, welcome again, John. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, I have my cohort, Carlin Stuart. Hey, Carlin.
Hey.
Howdy, Carlin.
Man, good to see you again.
Yeah,
it's been a while since COVID.
No, it's. I was going to tell you, I left my books on the bus or something. Carlin and I went to high school together eons ago, so many years ago.
Yes, back before
like
the
5 years
dinosaurs
ago
got wiped out.
Yep.
So, John, I know you got a new project coming up, so let me let you give that a tout right off the bat.
Yeah, that's the Star Wars: The Living Force comes out April 9th in hardcover, audiobook, and ebook. I really can't say too much about it in advance, other than that it is a big deal. It is a novel featuring the Jedi Council, all 12 members of the Jedi Council. That's the big new release. It's the book that's on the screen now. That's the one that's coming out next. That is Star Wars Knight Errant, the Essential Legends edition of that book. That was my first novel, and it actually came out 13 years ago yesterday, but we're putting that back out. And then I've got 4 other projects coming out, reprinted editions of other things. My Strange New Worlds, the High Country book, the trade paperback of that comes out on April 2nd. Skull and Bones, that's a video game that's coming out from Ubisoft. My friend James Mishler and I wrote the graphic novel for that. That hardcover comes out from Dark Horse February 21st, just in time for the game to finally come out. And then Marvel is doing 2 big editions of my past works. May 14th, they are doing one of the giant omnibuses that we see back here, which is the Star Wars Legends omnibus for Rebellion, Volume 2 is what they call it. I only have 1 issue in that, but it's an important one. It's my very first Star Wars comic book. And then, of course, Star Wars Legends, The Old Republic Epic Collection, Volume 1. This is a new printing of the first third of the Knights of the Old Republic comic series, which I debuted 18 years ago yesterday as I'm talking.
I bought every issue.
You bought every issue, and they're worth quite a lot of money now. And the first printing of this graphic novel is worth quite a lot of money now too, which is why it's good that they're putting out the reprinted edition. And that one has just gone live, for on Diamond solicitations, for that. That one comes up May 21st. The omnibus comes out May 14th. But that gives people yet another way of getting those comics. And again, the big new book is Strange New Worlds: The High Country. Actually, that's a big new Star Trek book. The big new Star Wars book is Star Wars Knight Errant. That's yeah. I'm getting confused. I got so many books. Star Wars: The Living Force. That is the book. All 12 Jedi and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, all 12 counselors. Basically a spring break book. April 9th. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We've already announced that it has a map inside. And also, if people go to readstarwars.com/pre-order living force, readstarwars.com.pre-order the living or /pre-order. What is it? readstarwars.com /pre-order the living force. There we go. That allows people to upload their receipts when they pre-order, and they will get a book plate signed by me if they are in North America. So that's everything that I have had to have announced. It's I've gotten out of the way here in 4 or 5 minutes, I hope.
That's a lot. You've been busy.
Well, a lot of those things I did years ago, as Carlin will attest. But what is great is that they're keeping things in print. That they're keeping things online. I started writing comics a little over 20 years ago. I had just done my first Mid-South Con in years. That was my hometown convention growing up in the 80s. I left town in the 90s, and I came back to it in 2002 because of Carlin. I was not even writing comics on my own yet, but I did start, and so that was the first place I signed issues of Knights of the Old Republic. You
came in first and did discussions as part of CBR.
Yeah,
we won't go back to the wood pulp days, but
not CBR, but CBG, Comics Buyers Guide.
CBG.
Yeah, and that was the very weird convention that was taken over by the TSA. That was a very strange convention where most of the space of the convention center was taken up by they were interviewing sky marshals because it was 2002, right after 9/11.
Right after 9/11, it was crazy.
Yeah, so one of a variety of adventures. I will be attending that show again this year. We didn't have one in 23, but I will be back there in 24, and I'm really doing more shows than I ever have. I now have a field team, Team Far Away. My friends James and Katie and Ann. I was able to do I think 17 events this last year. 18,000 miles. It was. I don't know exactly my full schedule for 2024 yet. These things are still coming together. But I already was able to announce that I'm end of next month. I'm going to be at Emerald City in Seattle, and then Mid-South Con, and then there's more to come.
So, John, since you started out with CBG, and then you moved into comics, and then you go into the writing. So, for the people that don't know, take a couple moments and go down memory lane for a minute.
Memory lane. Growing up in Memphis, I collected comics even then. From age 6, I still have all the ones I ever have, ever bought. My mother was a grade school librarian in the Memphis city school system. She encouraged me to put my comics in order. And so I kind of kept them all together. And so, I would also draw my own. I was publishing my own comics just within our school, Carlin, and then later I actually was photocopying them and sending them around to other people in what we call the small press. That's is a lot of fun. But it really wasn't until I went to journalism school, ended up working for the company that does Comics Buyer's Guide, and working for that newspaper and the companion magazine that I was the editor of, which was called Comics Retailer, doing all of those things and working alongside Don and Maggie Thompson, who were sort of the George and Martha Washington of the comics industry, or of comics fandom rather. They taught me a whole lot, such that in 2002, at the end of that year, when Marvel approached me to do a series, I was raring to go and definitely interested in jumping to the other side of the camera, so to speak. And so Crimson Dynamo led to Iron Man, Iron Man led to Star Wars, and then Star Wars led to everything else.
That's a good walk down memory lane, man. So what about do we want to start taking any questions yet, Kelly? Because
whatever y'all want to do.
Let's take a couple questions, and let's also just say hello to a few people. So
sure.
Willow Schuyler and Jeff Martin and also John Simone all say hello. And then we have a really good question from Nita of Sci-Fi Queen. She wants to know, what's your favorite part of going to a con?
I spend most of my time in a room. I have put out a novel basically every year in the last, sometimes more than one a year for the past 10 years or so. And I tend to write them in the winter. I live in Wisconsin now, so I am pretty much locked in the snow. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. There's no place to go. And so usually I am absolutely desperate to get out and visit folks and meet folks and go to conventions, which are the sorts of things that I would be doing anyway if it weren't my job. And so I get to do this, and I get to visit cities that I haven't gone to before. I get to talk with people about the books, and I meet a lot of celebrities having to do with TV shows and movies and things like that. The stuff that I'm a fan of. I just a lot of the photos that I will post will not be of me with fans, but will be with me and the celebrities half the time. But I have to say, another cool thing is that people will come, costumed as characters that I created. And, I got a photo yesterday from a woman who named her child after my character from Knights of the Old Republic, Zane, years ago. And so she was both a cosplayer for the series and then did that. So I mean that's really wonderful. I think I definitely enjoyed doing all these shows. I'm not able to go everywhere, and that's why I worked out this notion of the signed book plates for people. And if people don't know what a book plate is, it's just basically it's the sticker that is inside the front of the book that you sign. They're going to do a special one for me, and we'll do that. But the idea is to get those books pre-ordered, so we make sure that they're in people's hands.
That's awesome. I love that. And we have a few questions. So John Simone says, "Hey, got a question. If Lucasfilm were to continue the Legends continuity, would you consider writing a new novel set in that continuity?"
I defy anybody to read any of the books that I've done on the new side of 2014 and tell me what year it was written, because to me, everything is sort of all at the same time. I wrote the first novel in basically the Lucasfilm Story Group era, which happened in that was the New Dawn novel that came out in September of 2014. And even that book has references in it to things that I did in Knights of the Old Republic. And I have done other things as well. My story in Star Wars, from a certain point of view, that includes a Yark, the character from my Kenobi novel. The Canto Bite novella that I did for the book that came out for episode 8. That brings one of my favorite characters from that earlier era of books and comics. There's a character called Mosep Bonid, but I refer to him as Monkey Jabba because he was the Jabba the Hutt before they knew Jabba the Hutt was going to be the big lizard guy. He was sort of a mandrill looking sort of a character that appeared first in the comic books, and then he appeared in the role-playing games, and then he appeared in my novel Kenobi as Jabba the Hutt's accountant. And I was able to bring that character in as the mob accountant working for the guy who was really in charge of everything at that casino world for episode 8. Look, I'm always willing to.
Are you impinging me?
What's that?
Are you impinging me as a CPA?
No. But it was an interesting character, I'll tell you that. But basically, the way I look at it is, I will work with whatever toys in the toy box they will let me work with at any given time if it makes sense for the story. My Star Trek work, for example, people will find references in there to characters that appeared in the Marvel round of comic books that Paramount did in 1996 that are long gone. And so nobody told me I should do that, but nobody told me I couldn't do it either. So I'm just here to have fun, and we all just want to make things fun for the readers and make things work.
Ask permission, not forgiveness, right? Or ask forgiveness, not permission. I'm sorry. Never mind. So John has part 2 of his question is, if Legends were continued, what story would you want to see continued that never got finished?
I didn't have any stories that weren't finished because I treat every story as if it's the last one I'm going to do. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And in the case of something like Iron Man, at least so far, the last issue that I did of that in 2004, I haven't done anything since for it. So you want to kind of have everything, where you want it to be. And I never had any series that was canceled partway through. We did end up, doing the end of the Knights of the Old Republic, the first run of comics. We put it in fewer issues than I had originally planned, but we still got most of what I intended to do in there. Now, I have said that, if they had come along and said, let's do another round of Knight Errant comics, Kara Holt would have gone after a different Sith Lord or something like that. And also, the Zane Carrick series, the Knights of the Old Republic series, again, likewise, that was a comic book that, definitely, we had only gone through about a little over a year of the character's life. It's again one of those things where when the opportunity comes up, whatever the opportunity happens to be, if I happen to think of a story to tell, I'll try to tell it.
Nice. Carlin, do you want to take more questions, or
we've got plenty of questions
there
out there.
There seem to be plenty in the chat, so let's
let it roll.
People are very, very curious, which is good. You have a lot of fans. So David McDonald wants to know, what's your favorite non-Skywalker Star Wars character?
Lando, and Lando's the only character I haven't written just about. Well, actually, I haven't written Han or Chewie either, but I feel like I kind of did write Han because I did Star Trek Picard Rogue Elements, which is about the Star Trek version of Han Solo, except Cristobal Rios drinks more, smokes more, and has a more active social life than Han does. But no, Lando, I sort of love the character and the fact that he's a business person and he's having to sort of figure out his where he stands and figure out a deal to keep himself in business. I kind of have a little bit of a nod to that in the Griff character in Knights of the Old Republic. Somebody who's just very entrepreneurial, so yeah, it is. Yeah, Lando is somebody I haven't written yet. I actually do have a Lando a plot for a Lando story that I have. I think I've submitted it twice by this point, but they always pick a different story usually. So whenever I have an opportunity to do something, but some of these things, I did the Star Wars Adventures annual 2018. That was a story. That was a book. That was a story called Mind Your Manners, where basically Luke has to fill in for Leia as a diplomat before he really knows how to do that. And that was a story that was part of that first package of stories that I sent to Dark Horse, including the Lando story and including the very first Star Wars story I ever wrote, which was a story called Model Officer, which was basically a Darth Vader detective story. And it is that issue from 2005 that is in that big omnibus that is coming out in reprint form, Legends Omnibus Rebellion Volume 2, May 14th. So yeah, I Lando is somebody I haven't written yet.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see that at some point.
So Kelly, I see. Go and hit that question, and then I'll pop in.
Okay. North Carolina. I just did Raleigh last year. I'm not certain about this year. Raleigh has a problem, which is called San Diego. San Diego Comic-Con is the same week this year. And so basically I'm balancing my schedule and figuring out what to do. I do things all around. I also did Dragon Con. I've done Dragon Con 2 years in a row. Had not done it before. Oh my gosh, that's a hard convention to navigate. But because I think this last year on Friday I had events in 5 different buildings. With 5 different of the host hotels, and there's a big hill, and that's another thing. But again, this is why I go with people now to make sure I get where I'm going to go. But basically, people should go to farawaypress.com and go to the events page. That lists everything that I have announced. And again, right now it's just Mid-South Con and Emerald City. But there will be more. I'm basically just working things out right now.
Do you want to do a quick promo for our charity before we go to the next question? Because Clyde Hall's question really sets up another discussion point.
Yes, absolutely. So, if you're just now turning in, you're watching the Multiverse Fundraiser, and this is our Q&A session with John Jackson Miller, and I'm just going to run this little reel about Comic Books for Kids, which is our charity that we are partnering with this weekend.
The Multiverse Fundraiser is partnering with Comic Books for Kids to raise money for their cause. Their mission is to provide comic books to children in hospitals and cancer centers across the United States, Canada, and the UK. We believe in the importance of providing stories that promote hope and bravery to kids who are facing things that are scarier than any supervillain. And we truly believe in this cause. To donate, you can either go to our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/The Multiverse Fundraiser or directly to comicbooksforkids.org.
Okay, so you'll need the Kenobi book picture, and you're going to need the High Country book picture.
Okay.
Clyde Hall has a great setup question here, and it's one of my favorite interview questions just because it gives insight to people. Let's talk for a couple minutes about the influences that hit you as a kid. I mean, we kind of grew up at the same generation, same school, so I'm going to shut my mouth for a minute. But talk about some of the things that influenced you.
Well, Star Wars came out when I was 9. And so obviously I had that going on. I was watching Star Trek on TV, Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games. They had their heyday, starting to ramp up when I was in middle school. I got into war games, and basically historical games. After that, I had certainly when I was in that era too. That's when video games become a thing too, and first I have my Mattel and television, and then I get my first computer age 15, and so I'm able to partake of all this. There's a famous line that the golden age is 12. I think probably my golden age was 14 because that was kind of when everybody was into all these things. And then I remember I remember I was into everything. Carlin will remember this because our school had a middle school which went to 8th grade, and then high school started at 9th. And so I had a great 8th grade because everybody was into everything. And then at the beginning of 9th grade, I go out there. My friend Bob, who sadly has just passed on, I said to him, "Hey, I got all these great comics and video games and everything." And he says, "John, we're in high school now. We're no longer into any of that stuff." And I said, "Great, give me all of your comics. Give me all of your games. Give me all of your." And this is what I ended up doing, is I ended up basically subsuming or getting everybody's collections that they wanted to get rid of. And then it just became something where it's like, okay, well, I've got all of it, I might as well make a career of it. But yeah, those are major influences. I go to
classic movies.
Yeah, I go to college, and I'm editing the campus newspaper at Tennessee, and I'm there during the summer of 1989 when Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is out, and Star Trek V, which I reviewed, and I gave it a decent review, and then Batman, which I went to see 12 times because there was nothing else to do in Knoxville, Tennessee during the summer when nobody was in class. And again, that was when I started writing, articles. I wrote an article for the Comics Journal. I was writing, comics related articles for my own paper. And it's not a direct line that got me into all this stuff, but these are the influences that I kind of brought to things. And then basically every book that's come out, I've tied into something, because I do tie in novels. I've usually tied into something that I found really appealing back in the day. And I see we got some questions about some specific books here, but yeah, that's the general answer to your question.
Now let's go to Clyde's, because he specifically refers to Western influence.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember you historically responding to Kenobi as being your Western.
Well, Kenobi was my Western because I proposed it as the Ben Kenobi Western. That was literally the title of the email that I sent in 2006 to my editor. The book did not come out to 2013 because we were originally going to do it as a comic book, and that didn't happen. So I sat on the plot, the outline, for 6 years. But that was a case where we had started by discussing our love for old Westerns and the movie Shane, and which was just on TV here last night on Turner Classics. Again, he's the mysterious stranger who wanders into town, the man with a past. That's very much Obi-Wan. The Star Trek novel, I did initially start saying, I want to put Pike on a horse. That's the simplest part of it. And I want to do something where, I'd done other books. I did the first novel with the Anson Mount version of Captain Pike, the book Star Trek Discovery: The Enterprise War. That book took place almost exclusively in spaceships or in space. And I said, you know what? I want to do a story which is entirely on a single strange new world. And I want to do something where basically technology does not work. And where we also have these people here who are transplanted from the Old West. And that gives Pike a chance to interact with these people from another time, or who have grown up in this one place after having been there for another time. But even though it has a fairly strong Western thing going to it, there's other elements in there too. I mean, there's people who like Napoleonic naval stuff from the Patrick O'Brien or the Horatio Hornblower world. They're gonna find something like they like there, and more importantly, there's a major science fiction element to it. I remember, talking to my editor after she read it, and the first thing she said was, she loved the book, but the second thing she said is, the High Country, it isn't a Western. It's a science fiction novel with horses in it, and I do kind of believe that because I brought in scientific advisors on that one, including somebody I met at Mid South Con, another plug for the convention, in 2022, Dr. Don Lincoln from Fermilab. Literally, at that convention, I started quizzing him about, okay, I need to turn electricity off. How can I do that without killing everybody? And he's made some suggestions. And again, that was cool. And I was able to bring him in. He and I did a 2-man show kind of a thing at C2E2 in Chicago last year, where we basically I spoke for the fiction side of things. I spoke for the Star Trek side of things, and he shot everything down for everybody and told people why transporters won't work. I would suggest that folks again watch my social media feeds, because that is something that I definitely think we ought to do again.
So here's High Country, of course, and let me pop up Kenobi.
John, you brought up something that, of course, things like Enterprise War, that was like what, 1999. So
no, Enterprise War was 2019.
Yeah, 2019. So that I went back and I was kind of rereading a couple synopses to make sure I was back up to speed. I was like, it's been a while since I read this book.
Yeah.
And I glanced through the synopsis on Prey, and it's like, okay, the Klingon Empire, they're in danger and they're on the verge.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, just like you're talking about what the Western theme.
Yeah.
How many times has the Klingon Empire been in danger? It's a pretty good trope in Star Trek.
Well, that's the thing. So you could do any one of these tie-in books as a Mad Lib. One Jedi Knight, one Sith Lord, one planet-destroying weapon, and the same thing with Star Trek. The trick is to do something that nobody's ever done before. Basically, that Prey trilogy was a political thriller instead of 7 Days in May back in the 1960s, Cold War thriller. It's basically 3 months in 2386 because it was 3 novels written that transpired in real time, where I really got to do a lot of stuff. That is a very difficult book to do a single synopsis of. But every one of these books has something like that, and at the heart of every one of them is I think heart, because they all have something going on in them. Kenobi is very similar to my novel Die Standing for Star Trek, which is about Emperor Georgiou from the Mirror Universe, in the sense that even though he's good and she's evil, or at least she's evil where she comes from, they're both people who are exiled from everything they've ever known. They've lost all of it. She was the emperor of her part of the universe, and that's just gone. And both of these books are about these characters having to figure out how they're going to progress, or if they're going to progress. And in her case, her immediate instinct is to try to restart her empire in our universe. And the book is about how that evolves and how that changes. That Rogue Elements novel for Star Trek, it is kind of a similar book to my book Star Wars: A New Dawn, which is the prequel to the Rebels TV series, which shows what happens to Kanan a young Jedi who is cut loose after Order 66. He has no idea what happened. He has no idea what's going on with the Sith or the Empire or anything, and he just basically falls into depression and drinking. Well, the exact same thing happens to Captain Rios in my Picard book, because again, he also has been thrown out of Starfleet for reasons he doesn't understand. So all sorts of things like that, where I try to do something a little different every time.
Got another question, Kelly?
Oh yeah, we have lots of questions.
We have lots of them, so let's.
I'll go fast.
Oh, so how involved was George Lucas, John Smoltz? So how involved was George Lucas when you were writing the Knights of the Old Republic comics, and what was the process like back in the day?
Okay, he was not involved at all. And the licensed material was something where occasionally he would draw an element or two from it, but when he needed a planet name or something like that. In fact, that's what happens. But he was the storyteller, and so back in those days, we actually, there was sort of a dividing line on Wikipedia between G canon, which were the things that George came up with, and then everything else, and what was in the fiction. But I did get to visit Lucasfilm a couple of times. First when I did the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull book, graphic novel, and then later after I did the New Dawn book. The process back in the day was very similar to the way it is now, with one difference, which is that there's another layer now, and the additional layer now is that while I was working then with my editors at whatever publishing company I was with, and then also the fiction office at Lucasfilm, now there's also the story group, which is got its got contact, got members that are aware of what's going on in all the TV shows and all the movies, and that's great because it allows us to insert things in books, and it makes it easier to do things air traffic control wise, where characters aren't colliding. And to an extent, we've got the same thing in Star Trek, where the streaming series books, our contact for the streaming series books has been one of our own. Kirsten Beyer, who is a novelist who writes the Star Trek Voyager books, she's in the writer's room on Discovery. She's the executive producer of Strange New Worlds, or one of them rather, and then she is the co-creator of Picard. And all of my 4 streaming era novels, every one of those started with me having a conversation with her. And so that is much more proximate to the folks doing the TV show and the movies. But that's kind of the answer to that question.
Nice. And
Hey, John.
I think we have. Oh, go ahead, Carlin.
Talk about the process of doing a movie to comic novelization.
Okay, that was Indiana Jones. The only one I did was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And it's one of those things where you're not allowed to really, take anything home. you're working from a script, and these things can be kind of difficult in the sense that you're trying to visualize things that either haven't been filmed yet, or where they only can provide you certain things. As the book goes along, because I originally wrote it as 4 issues of a 4-issue limited series, which we published as 2 big issues. And what I think people will notice is the further we get into the book, the more it looks like the movie, because we actually had more information. But again, there are all sorts of things like that even if you're not actually adapting it, you're still working with the folks. I didn't even mention that I had a couple of graphic novels that tied in with the live action Dumbo movie and the live action Lion King movie. and or at least the CGI live action versions of those movies. And in both of those cases, I worked with the folks, that were, working with the film itself to come up with a way that my stories could fit into a certain moment in there. And I really doubt that anybody is reading the Dumbo graphic novel, Friends in High Places, trying to figure out exactly how that story fits into continuity, but it actually does. I can tell you exactly when in that movie, it happens. So everybody's working to try to get everything to fit.
All right, Kelly, would you throw up another question? There we go.
How much reference did I have to do on research that I have to do on the Kenobi character? Yeah, what I did that I do talk a lot about this on my website, farawaypress.com, where I've got an essay about every single story I've done. And so I get into a lot of work that I did before writing the Kenobi novel on the Kenobi page, which you can get to from the Star Wars page. The thing there was I had a variety of stories that were out there that touched on Obi-Wan Kenobi's time on Tatooine. And they weren't all in the adult novels. There was, in fact, very little in the adult novels. But we had, for example, Ryder Wyndham had written a young adult biography called The Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was a series of young adult books where Obi-Wan Kenobi was involved in as well, or middle grade reader books. And then I had various elements that were happening or had happened in the comics that told us about Tatooine. And then I had elements that I was bringing in from the role-playing games where they had maps of Mos Eisley and then, of course, the Mosep Benid character and all these other things. And so I basically, my what I try to do if I'm faced with things that are conflicting, and there were a few things that were conflicting in those accounts. I try to figure out a way to make all accounts correct, or at least write things in such a way that sort of allow these various things to at least nod to the fact that these earlier stories appeared. The Star Trek novel Discovery Die Standing has a significant callback to an episode of the original Star Trek series called Obsession, where Captain Kirk and the Farragut encounter this cloud beast, evil cloud guy, and the story of him originally encountering that had appeared in 3 other places. A graphic novel by Chris Claremont had gotten into it. There was another novel that had gotten into it, and then there was a third novel that touched on it by William Shatner. And what I did, I looked at them. I tried to figure out how do I get all 3 of these to be correct, and I couldn't. It wasn't my job to make them exactly all fit, or to even to refer to them. But I figured out, what I'll do. I will. When I say, when I refer to these things, I'll hedge how the characters are talking about them. Like, I think I remembered it like this, but might it happen like this? I'm not sure. So it basically gives that wink to the reader who remembers the old thing that, I didn't absolutely wipe it out. But I'm here to tell my story. I'm here to do more than just connect dots. A story is more than just a list of continuity points. That's lore. That's people love lore for the what they put on Wikipedia or Memory Alpha or Memory Beta or whatever. But that's not storytelling. That is the plots that we do, the things that happen in our stories, do provide material for lore. But I'm not really there just to put my names, or rather to put my to name all the things that don't have names, to put my stamp, put my footprints everywhere. That's not my job, to leave my fingerprints everywhere.
So, Kelly, one of the questions, I'm going to flip over here to my notes for 1 second. You had brought up, do you have any thoughts about the Kenobi TV series?
I was happy with it. I knew that what we would see was pretty much going to be like what we saw. In the sense that the story that I wrote was an arrival story. It was him getting to Tatooine, him seeing everything for the first time, and I knew they weren't going to be able to do that because obviously 10 years have elapsed. More than 10 years have elapsed for the actor in the meantime. And so I knew that it was going to be like that. I was, however, delighted that, both Ewan McGregor and also the director, both read the book. They both did videos talking about the book. Those are also on the Kenobi page on my website. And they left a major element of the novel. Well, first of all, nothing conflicts with the novel. Which is again wonderful. But they also used an element that is consistent with what is in my book, and that is the whole thing about whether or not Qui-Gon was speaking to him yet. And in Kenobi, we went back and forth on how to handle that, and we finally decided no, we want to make it so that he he has never actually heard from Qui-Gon. That he's tried, but it's just not getting anywhere. And that got us drama, and that ends up in the series consistent with that. So yeah, I like seeing that.
Cool. Kelly, I had pulled in for some images. There is a Battlestar Galactica comic, which is just come on, man. That's our generation. I'm gonna throw that one in.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you told me you were doing that, I'm like, yay.
I did. I did the 40th anniversary graphic novel for Battlestar Galactica for Dynamite. And I was horrified to realize while working on the book that I was the only person working on the title in editorial or creative that was alive when the TV show was on. And so that's definitely.
Oh, God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, let me sort of help out here when it comes to making sure that I'm already doing this. I'm helping the artists to know what images to use, and in particular with Galactica, it's difficult because we had the case of first of all, there's the 2003 series, which has different versions of the Colonial Viper and the Cylons and everything. So you have to make sure you don't accidentally draw those. But then we had the issue that my artist, who did a very good job rendering the characters, Daniel HDR, was in Brazil, and they don't have the show in Brazil. They don't even have all they have is the opening credits. And if you just watch the opening credits, you'd believe that there's still 5 Battlestars floating around because that's what's in the opening credits. That's all that Universal allows to be on YouTube from that show. So it is something where I shepherded that book into being a little bit more than the other things that I did, and it was very much a labor of love. And that book is still available out there. I have all of these things as well on. I've got an eBay page or an eBay store under Faraway Press. That's my personal thing. But you could also get it through your comic shops. They'll probably have to order it because it's 5 years out. But I do know it's still in stock.
Hey, John, you just brought something up because you just made me have a flashback.
Yeah.
When Gold Key was doing the original Star Treks.
Yeah.
Some of the original artwork, they have fire coming out of the nacelles.
Yeah. And
artists did not have
clean reference.
Yeah. He was in Italy and had not seen the book or the series.
The show.
Yeah, I talk about that in detail. I did two books. Again, another Mid South Con alumna there, Amy Sturgis, edited a couple of books along with Emily Strand. I did a college. Two college textbooks, one on Star Wars and one on Star Trek. I wrote an essay for each of them about tie-in fiction and canon and how these things tie together. And that comes up in the Star Trek one because it is the case where, it was after that, and then also after the Little Golden books or the Golden Press novel that they did for Star Trek. It was then that Roddenberry looked at those and said, okay, we need to get more of a handle on things. And it is that sets up everything that we've dealt with since then or gotten since then in terms of there being synergies between these things. Nobody in the day would have ever considered that elements in the novels or the comics could ever feed back on screen. And yet that is happening. That is possible. I'm delighted that it's happening. It just takes a lot of work.
And now we see Mark has joined us with Comic
Yep.
Books for Kids. So, hey, Mark, thanks for popping in.
Listen, Carlin, I was listening to John talking about being the only guy alive, and it's like I lowered my head. I'm not sure if misery loves company here. But Carlin, speaking of age, I'm also of that generation that when someone says I'm having a flashback, it means something very different, So, sorry. John, a pleasure to say hello. Thank you so much for being here. I knew
pleasure.
of you not only from your talented writing, but I think, I don't know if a lot of people know this, that if people were to say to you years ago, tell me the top selling comic book in the United States for DC based on circulation, you might have been able to help with that.
Up until 2020, and when the pandemic happened, I still have the website and I still update it. There's a website called Comicron, COMICHRON.
Correct.
.com. I have the world's largest public database of comic book sales figures. And every month for 25 years, I was doing those numbers originally for the magazines that I was writing for, then for various websites. And then in 2007, when I started writing full time, I created the Comicron site. And it just happens that after what happened in 2020 and distribution went a bunch of different directions,
right.
All of the data that I used to get, with the exception of every week, Diamond still puts out its reorder charts, which says basically what's popular, but not necessarily what they're selling. I still do those on the website, but then I'm also working. I have several projects that I've got. There are other sets of data that I've got. I know I've got more information probably than is anywhere else on sales figures.
But people don't know this, but you are and have been the source. If I wanted to see, and I am very much aware of Comicron. I've used it for years and years until the distributor wars of a few years ago.
Well, this version of the distributor wars.
Correct.
Yeah, because I started the project because of the 1995 one. So that was the 1995 distributor wars. I know we're going to run out of time here, but yes, it's one of those things where it's I figure that the general public, the collector and the retailer both really need to know what's out there. They really need that for their own protection.
Correct.
All these publishers of every kind, that have variant covers. There are basically 3 variant covers for every regular cover now, on average. And then some publishers have many of them, including works of my own. I haven't got any idea how many Battlestar Galactica zeros or ones there are, because they made so many versions of it. But again, I think that it's a healthier business when people actually can look at something and say, that's rare, that's not. I want people to kind of have that data. And the good news is I have so much material that I can still post, that I can still, get online from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s that people have never seen. I just need time to do it. But I'll tell you, one of the consequences of not having to do the monthly numbers anymore, because I was having to do them in airports and hotels at conventions and everything, because they would just land, whenever I had to do them when they landed. One reason that I kind of have this explosion in the last couple of years of me being able to do more books and more signings and more events is that I am no longer forced to burn 4 days every month doing the math on somebody else's schedule.
Yeah.
So again, but comic books for kids, it's a great idea. I grew up on them, and I am happy to be able to support the project.
Thank you for being. Are we going to see you at C2E2 this year?
I have not announced my full convention schedule yet, but basically, since I have a novel coming out in April 9th, that's Star Wars: The Living Force, and that's 2 weeks before C2E2, and I live in Wisconsin. You can make whatever.
Kelly, Carlin, are we getting a scoop here? I know.
Oh, I think we are. Also, by the way, John, I'm a fellow Wisconsinite, so
very good.
Hi, neighbor.
I don't really have any neighbors. I'm in the middle of nowhere, so that's okay.
I'm southeast, so high northern.
Oh, very good.
But hopefully, with this scoop-ish, hopefully I'll get to say hi to you in person.
Okay, very good.
Well, and we're at the top of the hour, so
we're out of time.
Well, folks can find me JJM Faraway on Twitter, John Jackson Miller on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, which I'm doing a lot more stuff on. Farawaypress.com is the website. Comicron is the website for the comics research, and also for Comicron, there is a Twitter feed, a Facebook feed, a Threads feed, an Instagram feed, and a Patreon. And so all sorts of different things. Again, thank you all very much, and may the Force live long and prosper.
It was wonderful to see you again.
You too.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you in March, Carlin.
Mark, nice meeting you online.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good thing.